Ooh, John, your little thing is going to the music.
Yeah, cool. Just what I needed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Humane, the movie that begs the question, which one of your siblings would you kill if you were forced to choose? We will definitely get into that later, but first up, joining me from Manhattan, New York City, please welcome John to the show.
New microphone vibes.
John's frustrated with technology tonight.
Look, to be fair to the technology, I did try it out very briefly earlier today, and I was like, this will work great during the show. And then, of course, obviously, it was like, but here we are. No, it's
That's
great.
why whenever I recommend people do tests of equipment, I add the word robust before the word tests.
Look, I just want to say thank you to the patrons because I bought my first new microphone in, I don't know, 8 years. So
At least. Yeah.
Thank you.
You were rocking that stanky old Yeti.
Love the Yeti. The Yeti has moved to the mountain house, and it's there if I ever need it. So.
Yeah. The Yeti needs to be taken to the woodshed.
So. I still enjoy my stanky Yeti.
Yeah.
Next up, that voice from Indiana. Please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And last up, from the Bay Area of San Francisco, please welcome Matilda to the show.
Hi. I feel a little weird on my stinky Yeti here.
See, I didn't even know.
God,
You got
just slumming it with a Yeti.
Over it.
Oh, this is going to be like West Side Story.
It's my inadequate Yeti. Yeah.
Listen, at one point, Yeti was the only player in the game. Like, if you wanted a decent USB mic, it was Yeti or nothing. There's just more options now, that's all.
I feel like all the pro podcasters are Shure, though. That's
Shure's a big one. The other one's Rode.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, Rode. Yeah, okay. RODE, Rode. Not a paid advertisement.
It's true. All right.
Although it can be.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. Sure
Get in
can.
touch, Rode. I will replace this mic tomorrow.
Let's get right into it and discuss Humane.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
John, I almost watched this before the day we recorded.
Yeah.
I
was
didn't,
proud of you.
but I
Almost proud. Yeah. Oh, I know.
To be clear,
Here's a
it lasted maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. I also had a screener copy and still paid $7 to rent it from Amazon because I was too lazy to stream it from Chrome to my TV. So
It's tough. It's really hard sometimes.
That's true. John,
Yeah.
please bring us the word of the day.
I'm not going to do it. Oh, okay.
John, are you familiar with what this means when I put my finger up? It means like, wait a second.
Absolutely not. I'm not familiar.
Apparently.
Eric, today's word is euthanasia.
Ah,
Yes.
we've never done that one before.
No, I did check. EUTHANASIA, euthanasia, or painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable and painful disease or an irreversible coma. The practice is illegal in those countries. That's somehow like in the definition. I don't know. Origin, interesting. I mean, I probably maybe could have gotten there on my own if I had thought about it. EU means well. This is in Greek. And then Thanatos. Thanatos, guesses? Anyone?
He's an Avenger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's the opposite, but something like that.
Is it good death?
Yes, well death. Yeah, Thanatos. Thanatos
Look at
death.
Matilda with a serious answer.
She's a learned woman.
That's true.
So.
I watched one of those Avengers movies, John, on the way to Cincinnati. Or
It's
not
the best way to
on the
watch
to LA.
any Marvel film.
Yeah, on the
is
back of a
airplane.
seat.
Yeah. No,
was
I'm
pretty
serious though.
It was
It's
all right.
yeah.
Also,
I
didn't see the one. So I've seen the first Avengers movie. I did not see the second
Avengers
one, which
1.
I think. Yeah, I didn't see the second one, which I think has James Spader in it, right, as the villain. Or see the
Sure.
villain in the first one.
I thought he was in. That's Age of Ultron, isn't that James Spader?
I did not see
Yeah.
that one. I saw the one where
Is that the second
Thanos
one? That
is
could be.
snapping his finger and killing people. I think that's the third one.
That's well. So there's that's
There was 4
it's-
Avengers movies, right?
Yeah, and the third and the fourth are like a pair. You kind of have to see both. If you jumped in on the fourth one, it's like, what the fuck's going on? Because you're
Well,
seeing.
even the third one, it ends like all the cliffhangers from the second one. Like some people are dead. That like you have no idea. It doesn't matter. It's all stupid.
No, that well, I don't know. Who knows which one you saw is the real answer. We'll never be able to figure this out. So
I was like, you know what? This isn't that bad.
they
They're
know
on to
what they're
something
doing.
here.
yeah, you're catching up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, John, tell me about Humane. Why did
Yeah.
this has a connection to one of your favorite?
I mean,
people, John.
Look, this movie, to at least for me as a genre film consumer, kind of came out of the blue. In that, like, I knew that it existed in some theoretical sense, but then it just like was a movie that was available to be watched. So this comes to us from Caitlin Cronenberg, director Caitlin Cronenberg, daughter of and sister of David and Brandon. So yeah, we've got a third Cronenberg now to keep track of. It's her first feature. I didn't check that, but I'm like 98% sure. Matilda, I see you
Yeah.
shaking your head. Yes,
Mhm.
nice. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, it written by Michael Sparraga. Let's see, has Michael Sparraga done anything? I'm assuming not, but we're gonna, maybe. Yeah, he's produced some other stuff, but this was like maybe the first movie that we've watched that he's been involved with. So yeah, I mean, this was a thing that I would say if Caitlin Cronenberg was not the director, we probably wouldn't be covering it right now. But it's out. It's getting a release. It's in
Not
theaters.
that that's a thing of the quality, but it just may not have landed on our radar.
Well, truly, it didn't land on my radar. And then I think we were talking about it last week, and I was like, oh, wait, that movie's out? Like, let's go. I think it's in some theaters now, at least here. Like, it's like, it got like a pretty limited release in New York. But it's streamable. Like, it was sort of one of these like hybrid releases. Background or the plot here is somewhat straightforward. I would say it's a high concept film in that there is like a core idea. The idea is that we are in not the super distant future, we are in the sort of like near future. The film is Canadian, as are the Cronenbergs. Did they say exactly where it's set? I just like sort of assume it's Canada, but
I didn't
there's a
catch that
lot of
at all,
stuff that
actually.
it works for America, maybe even more than Canada. So we can get into some of that. But the premise is that basically, and we hear this in voiceover as the sort of opening tiles and credits are rolling, but the Earth has deteriorated ecologically to such an extent, basically like the food and water systems have collapsed. And so now there's like this population crunch, or there's a population issue. There's just not enough food. There's like extreme famine, there's extreme drought. And so the UN has decided that every country has a quota of population, effectively, let's say. Like, or you could say the inverse, which is that they have to eliminate some amount of population. The movie doesn't get like so into the numbers, like that's not really the point. But what has now happened is in this country, let's say Canada, I think it's easier. They have the government, every government around the world has like their options for how to handle this. But in Canada, they've basically said, we're going to first allow people to volunteer. And if they volunteer, there's like financial, economic sort of benefits to it. There's also, they're trying to create like a patriotic element to it of sort of like you've enlisted, they keep calling it enlistment, sort of like the army. And what is happening at the time that the movie kicks off is that they might actually start drafting. So we're going to go from like sort of a volunteer enlistment to a draft, meaning forced, essentially like volunteering for death. But the movie follows like one family. We can get into some of the details. It's a little complicated, but the dad is a famous news broadcaster, now retired. He has 4 kids, and he's invited them to dinner. They all show up. They don't really know what's going on. They've got a complicated backstory and like history with each other interpersonally. And he tells them that he and their stepmom have volunteered or have enlisted, and they start freaking out. And there's like this like back and forth and a lot of sort of drama at the dinner table. And during that, the stepmother basically decides like, or is convinced because the kids are sort of arguing with her, that actually she's not sold. So she leaves. Meanwhile, the people who do the killing come in. And so now you have this sort of family in a house, and the people, the killing, they're called docs, DOCS. It's like an acronym. I can't remember what it stands for. They basically say, we're not leaving until we have 2 bodies. So the dad, Peter Gallagher,
that's a great moment.
yeah, well, he basically is like, cool, I'm good. Like I will, make good on my enlistment. And so he kills himself, or is euthanized in front of the family. And there's like this whole scene. But then the docs team is like, yeah, that was great and all, but we're not leaving and without another body. And so now you've got these 4 kids who have had a very complicated upbringing, 3 of whom are biological. There's an adopted son, and there's just a lot of drama between the 4 of them about sort of who's who and how they're going to decide and who is going to be the one.
John, do you remember the name of the 90s series that guy was in?
Which guy? Peter Gallagher?
Enrico
Oh.
Tony.
No.
Is it Veronica? Is it Veronica Mars?
He
Before
was
that-
Veronica Mars, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Just Shoot Me.
Oh,
Just Shoot Me.
yes. I love Just Shoot Me. I used to watch that show.
Yes.
That's like kind of
David
the only
Spade
thing I
was
know
on
that
that,
dude
wasn't
from.
he?
So I was like, ooh, it's this guy.
Yeah.
All right, Matilda's our guest. What'd you think?
I was in at the beginning of this. Like, it's Caitlin Cronenberg, it's social horror, sci-fi. I'm going to be in. I think this movie starts a little bit stronger than it finishes. But I still very much enjoyed it in the way I enjoyed Ready or Not. I think there's a kind of, I think I was on talking about either like The Menu or Infinity Pool. Like, there's kind of this appetite that we currently have around very rich people behaving badly and being shamed by being reduced to their primal unethical selves, right? Like Triangle of
I always
Sadness.
have
And,
that appetite.
yeah. Right. We have this
Eric
currently.
lives
It's
for
like,
that, actually.
there's a
Right
little
on
bit
it.
of a subgenre happening. And I always enjoy things that are social horror like this, that are like kind of like Margaret Atwood, where you just like click a few more buttons further and you get what would actually, it's not too far out of reach, right?
Yeah.
That something like this would happen. I mean, it's obviously a little bit of a COVID parable in that it's a crisis that exposes and exaggerates kind of standing inequities. But the structure of this kind of reminds me of the original Purge movie in that it's a broad and terrifying premise that's played out in a very small kind of bottle setting.
That's a good comp. I like that.
Yeah. And the first few minutes do such a tremendous job of like show and not tell, right? With that song playing, with the 2 guys in the van. And the tone is so good that I thought we might get something slightly more clever in the end. But overall, I had a pretty great time. I love Jay Baruchel. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Like, I love him since Undeclared. I just love him.
Undeclared.
Now we're
are you
just
a
naming
fan?
things from the 90s. That was
Matilda,
that
are
90s or-
you a fan? No, Undeclared was the year 2000, and I know that because it
Yeah.
was my freshman year of college.
Okay. There you go.
Matilda, are you familiar with End of the World? Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, he's phenomenal
great
in that.
Jay
That's a
Baruchel
great movie. Yeah. Yeah, he's great. I love Emily Hampshire from Schitt's Creek. And I think that Enrico Colantoni does a
She's-
tremendous job.
To me, like between Enrico and what's her name? Sarah something? Girl from Schitt's Creek.
Emily Hampshire.
Emily Hampshire.
The two of them like carry this movie in a lot of ways. She's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had a great time, even though, but also I can't tell how much of that was just like how much I was ready to have a great time because of who the director was
Yeah.
and what the premise was.
Well, when it comes to me, I'll have a very unbiased review because I forgot that it was directed by her.
Okay.
Casey, what'd you think?
So I didn't know anything about this movie till we started talking about it last week either. And up until last night, I'd only read the plot on IMDb. I had concerns that this was going to be a very bleak movie just because the plot itself, when you read it on its own, it's very bleak. And I wasn't
You were
in a
so
great-
nervous. You were
I was
really
not
nervous.
a great headspace for, something that dark. And then Schnars, assured me it was more of a dark comedy. I went and watched the trailer. I'm like, okay, had completely wrong expectations. So going into this, then I had my expectations reset, and I'm really kind of on par with everything Matilda had to say. I like this movie quite a bit. I'd call it pretty good to really good, but I think there's definitely we cross a wall somewhere near the third act as things where I kind of hoped that this movie was going to start popping off and then into a different direction, and it just kind of never got there. And it felt to me the second half, the first half was great. I was really wrapped up into this and the world they built and kind of picking stuff on Enrico Colantoni. Fabulous when he walks in there because he's doing his more. I love his sarcasm that comes straight from like back in the days of Just Shoot Me, more so than when he was on Veronica Mars. I love it when he does that. And I thought he was spot on, and it's a perfect place for it here. It really offset the darkness of things to help set that tone, I think. But yeah, once we get to that last half, it just feels like it kind of falls apart. Not completely falls apart off the rails. It just loses its steam and just kind of feels like it's going to get to a certain length. Beyond that, if I think this is Caitlin Cronenberg's debut, right?
Yeah.
For a debut movie, this is really cool. I was really impressed, and I can't wait to see more. Again, I enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. I just think the ending's a little weak.
John.
I'm aligned, but probably like a hair to 20% more negative. But like everything, basically like I'm gonna give a more negative version of what Casey said, which is to say, it really loses a lot of steam for me in the middle, and this is true of a lot of these. Matilda, the way you describe it, it's sort of like a locked door comedy, like black comedy in a lot of ways. Like it is a bottle, whatever whatever you want, whatever screenwriting analogy you want to use. I just don't think they really knew what to do with some of these characters. For that sort of like middle of the second act, really all the way through to the end. And, it goes to like a pretty clever place. I would honestly say, and I don't want to, we can get there and I can say without spoiling it, the end credit sequence almost like saves the entire movie for me, because I thought it was like one of the funniest moments of the movie is like the very last minute, It's not as funny as I wanted it to be. Everything you guys said, like I agree. So maybe I've talked about this on the show. I didn't really watch Schitt's Creek. My wife watched it. So like I sort of like absorbed it like in passing a lot, and like I get it. It's a funny show, I'm sure. I just whatever. I've not watched it. I did not clock her as the woman from Schitt's Creek at all. And I'm like, should I know this person? Like, because it's it's her, it's Jay. Basically, of the four family members, Jay Baruchel is like the most recognizable, at least to me. You then have her, who I like, without knowing who it was like, I think I should know who this is. And then you have the two youngest siblings, one of whom is the adopted brother, who kind of is the hero. He's certainly sort of the emotional hero of the film. And I don't know, like I had a hard time kind of connecting to any of them, and some of that maybe is intentional. There's a little bit of, as you say, like rich people behaving badly, but even the sort of emotional hero character, which I'm just gonna say it, I joked jokingly to Eric and Casey, said it looked like Oscar Isaac who got hit by a car.
No, it's Ozempic Oscar Isaac.
He's much thinner. I think he's taller. He's sort of like a lankier
but the
Oscar Isaac.
voice.
Yeah,
I did a double take, paused it, and went to IMDb to see if it was Oscar Isaac.
I didn't
That's
research.
How convinced I was.
I mean, maybe they're related. Who knows? I did not research this. He's good. Like all of the actors are good. The direction is good. Like it is a well put together movie, and it's like a trim movie. But even though it's pretty trim, there were definitely moments where I was like losing steam in the back half. I think they could have like I said, it could have been funnier, and like they didn't like hit as many jokes as I would have liked. Some of the best moments are his name's Enrico in the
in real life.
In real life, yeah.
Mhm.
What was his name? The docs guy now in the
Is
movie.
it Bob or something?
Yeah, it is. It's Bob
Yeah.
because Casey sent they set up an actual Instagram channel for him. Bob, I think Bob and the daughter in the RV are like some of the sort of like, to the extent they're like, if there's any like funny, like I like actually laughed moments, like those were some of the better ones. But they just, again, even there, they didn't 100% seem to know what they wanted to do with that. And so, you miss some of the impact of it. I don't know.
I'm going high tonight, John. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Dare I say I like this more than anything I've seen out of Daddy Cronenberg in a hot minute.
What? Well, all right. What's a hot minute? I mean, he's been working for 50 years.
10 years.
So.
Yeah.
All right.
Man, it's all the cast for me. It's a great cast. This cast of like really solid actors, funny characters in this sort of controlled situation. Sort of a silly premise, but like based in a world that makes you understand, right? Like it's a near future world that's like just plays out trends to sort of the extreme. Although I was literally just reading a climate scientist who was like, it's going to be catastrophe in 5 years. So maybe not that crazy, John. Although killing people wouldn't help that per se. But it is like, what the dad's going to say when he calls them all together, right? Like, because what the movie's about more or less. But
it's in the trailer too. I mean, to the extent anyone watched the trailer.
Yeah.
It's in the IMDb plot too.
The one thing I'll definitely agree on is like, I didn't have any problem with the ending. I mean, it does. The fight between the siblings definitely pops off at some point and goes more extreme than I expected it to. And
there's a couple like gory scenes where I'm like,
some real fun.
She just like had to get the Cronenberg.
There's some like real fun, intense, violent moments between the siblings fighting and stuff. I loved the interaction between Bob and the younger girl in the van.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's playing cards and she's just like talking shit to him. That was really funny. I really think though that Emily Hampshire is my favorite part. Like I think that just her whole personality and the cursing and like it's just good shit.
What was her deal? Like, did I miss, because a lot of the not the plot, but like the narrative arc of there's a narrative arc for each of these characters that we're like kind of supposed to care about, and hers was the one I understood the least.
Oh, yeah. She's like the head of the disgraced head of a pharma company.
Oh, so she's like
she's like the Emily Hampshire.
And her daughter's being bullied because of it, and like
because I think
said something
in the very beginning. There was like a one like quick talking head moment.
Yeah,
I liked her moment where like they're all kind of coming to the realization that somebody might have to kill someone else, and like then they're all like, oh my god, no. And she's like, oh, I don't like any of you, like I don't care. Like,
so brutal.
We see each other once a year.
And even the way they turn on their one like adopted brother is really brutal. It's just fun.
Well, he's like,
It does.
not only is
I
he's
agree that
adopted, he's also like a drug addict, right? Like, so,
Right.
you know,
I agree that it loses steam towards the end. It just starts to feel a little long in the tooth at some point. You're like, all right, like let's wrap it up. But
they needed one or two other external characters. Like, they do this whole moment where the adopted brother's girlfriend, and there's like a big moment because he has a girlfriend,
Yeah.
and then he like calls her to the house and she shows up. Like, they needed something else like that. They needed some other things narratively to kind of like keep, because that, I don't know, that felt like it was sort of wasting time at a certain point, like that whole bit. But, and I don't mean to like make it seem like they need more of that, but like the alternative was having the four of them fight more, which like
Yeah.
after that goes for 15, 20 minutes, you're like, okay, I get it. I get where we are here.
I think
So-
they could have amped up the animosity between the siblings just a touch, because some of the times there's some back and forth in that whole section when they start turning on each other and everything's going on and it's chaotic in the house, and I realize that's part of it, but some of them feel like they flip flop a little bit back and forth without
They
a whole
do.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
explaining or to make it stand out. It's just kind of like, oh, I guess they're on their side now.
Here's what I would have loved. We get one shot of Jay Baruchel being like super fucking weird, creepy. He's like tweaking his nipples, I think.
Yes.
Is that what was happening?
Yeah.
Where did that
Right.
come from? Slash?
Well, because
Where did
they
that
say
go?
this was one of the hardest parts for me is I wanted to see all the dossiers on like what they
Yeah.
had of their search
Yes.
histories. He's like, because they said like, you know, when you Google such and such, and he's like, don't worry about what I Google. And then we see him in there going,
Yeah.
well, come
I
on.
would- like sort of to Casey's point, like whether it's the animosity between them or just their like idiosyncrasies,
Yes.
because like the
you could have
actress is the
focused
same
more on
way.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like she's the actress, and she's the one who flip flops the most. Like we're meant to sort of like care about her going back and forth on where she lands, but really, she's just like seems like a bad actor. She's struggling. She's not doing great, and like her whole dossier is like feedback from casting directors who are like, she sucks and like has no personality or whatever. It's like really nasty shit. But like, what is she really about? Like, we don't really know. She has like kind of a special relationship with the adopted brother because she was the youngest. The adopted brother is sort of like third, and then she's the baby, and so they were like sort of the closest. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
And like, and her course throughout that whole third act too, and where she ultimately ends up, and there's a lot of back and forth there with, especially with her character, that just feels like it's kind of lost in the mix. She's at one point she's turning against the adopted brother, but then she's helping him against the others, and then she's helping, they're all together, and then all of a sudden something else bad happens, and it's just kind of confusing, specifically around her character and what's happening.
yeah. Like, could she have tweaked her nipples or something? I mean, you know, the equivalent thereof. It didn't need to be.
Well, to that point, I would have I think to your point too, you could have even taken that farther back and just elevated all of the stuff that made them sleazy rich people at the beginning, like the stuff about Emily Hampshire and the drug company and what happened there. And they touched on him being, you know, a far right winger, getting into conspiracies, but they don't really expand on it much. So it's just kind of mentioned. That would have been nice to see it fleshed out.
He works for the government, right? Like, he's actually, Jay Baruchel's like actually part of the government.
Policy.
Yeah.
He
the
said,
pol-
well, you said he was an archaeologist at one point, I think, and then, but I got the impression that he knows people in the government and the policy making. He's not necessarily part of it.
Oh, I thought he was like a professor that had been hired by the government. Like
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, I wasn't clear. Is the main thing.
Well, and 'cause
Yeah.
in the beginning, he's on the like whatever fake CNN, and they introduce him as like there to basically defend the government's policy. So that's where whether or not he's an insider or outsider, he's definitely sort of like aligned with the government that's trying to solve this thing. And he's the one who's like, I know people, I know what's happening, we don't need to do this. Like, we would be protected. And that's, look, like the thing that this movie actually does, I think, really effectively is like, it's very social horror. If anything, it's like sort of more explicit about it than like a lot of movies we watch, but it sort of does it like winkingly or in a way that keeps it moving and fun, you know?
They don't pound you over the head with it, but it's
No,
apparent.
but it's yeah, and it's you don't know. It's not like you're confused about where it's landing. I like that it is a more it's a more complicated view, and this is what I liked most about the ending, and like
Hmm.
we can talk about sort of exactly what happens. But this Doc's team that is there to collect the bodies, they're the quote unquote bad guys, but they're like kind of blue collary folk, or that's sort of how they're presented. They're
There's a little bit of
There's an
class
angle
stuff
there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
and they're former correctional officers
Well,
mostly.
Yeah.
they're sadistic. Like
That
they're-
line made me
we're
cringe.
not meant
'Cause
to
have
like.
you ever met a correctional officer in real life, John?
I probably have.
Yeah.
They're not-
Well,
They are
I
the
mean,
gym
that's
teachers of law enforcement.
Oh my God, yes. That was
exactly. Docs,
Look,
though,
We
that
need
was another.
correctional officers. Like I hope
Teachers of
some of
law
them are good
enforcement.
people.
Yeah.
Holy
like,
shit, that's so good.
That whole Docs angle is another thing that
God.
could have been elevated a little more too. I like just fleshed out a little bit more because they made mentions, and there's a couple news stories mentioned in the background about how people are questioning how the government won't tell people how far Doc's power goes.
Well,
Which brings it back to the whole contract thing when he said, "Hey, we signed up for 2 cadavers. I can't leave without 2
Yeah.
cadavers, and we got our next appointment." Do they really have that power? They could have
I
played with
look.
that.
I thought that was like a fun / interesting angle, which is like because this is like how something like this would happen. I mean, look at COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, Matilda, you
Yeah.
like this is when you think about COVID testing or how like because the government can't scale up quickly to handle sort of existential things like this. So what they do is they start empowering and outsourcing to agencies or so, in this case prison facilities, former prison facility workers.
Yeah.
That whole like there's like an offhanded reference of like, well, the prisons are getting empty because people can like volunteer, they can enlist. And I was like, hold on a second. Why would we think prisoners would enlist more readily than non-prisoners? But that,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Now, the other implication is that like maybe they're not enlisting and like they're just killing all the prisoners.
Well,
Or because of the
there's talk-
financial. Yeah.
There's talk about the numbers being fudged and like
Yeah.
there's lots of stuff going on with that.
Well, and that's like the sort of quote unquote jankiness of docs. Like some of that's like, the budget on this movie is not enormous. So like they roll up in an RV and like they're just kind of wearing like regular old whatever riot gear.
But that's sort
That's
of like,
realistic. Yeah.
That's where
I
was
love
going.
the
It's like, it feels
mundanity
real.
of it though. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's what makes
Yeah.
it so fun is this Bob guy just being like, well, and like cracking jokes about things and like
Yeah, I
And-
love what you've done with the house.
I mean the I mentioned it, but the best moment in the movie is when he goes to leave and then he turns and he's like, "Oh, one more thing. We need another body." Like his whole just performance in that moment is brilliant.
So here's another thing I didn't 100% clock, and like maybe if I watch it again, maybe it would help. So the mom runs away, but then we get the message, or we like hear Bob getting the message that they've found the mom, but they don't tell the kids that. So he's basically this is another one of these things where it's like I guess the government is like, yeah, well, we want 2 bodies, but like if we take 3 too, like great, it's like there's a little bit of like that stuff isn't explicit, and it was a little bit of like it was confusing to me at a certain level.
Yeah.
So
Well, I connected that back to that one random one-off news story comment about somebody saying the government won't tell them the full extent of Doc's power.
yeah.
That ties in with that whole number
yeah.
fudging thing. But there's also the aspect too, which I did like, that some of this, as we're talking about it, I feel some of these moments that I really liked are kind of muddy looking back on it. But there's that whole angle that they don't dwell on, that Peter Gallagher had a chance to end it with just him and not put the kids in danger, but he chose not to because he had to sign a document that would say he'd be put on the list of cowards for not fulfilling his duty.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot around Peter Gallagher as this, not just a patriarch of this family, but he was sort of like a national patriarchal figure as he was
And
Yeah.
pretty
weird.
narcissistic, yeah.
Yeah, but I think he took seriously that his enlistment would carry weight. He also sort of like sold that through to his wife. There's also, and again, this is where like there's a lot going on in this movie that's like happening. There's this whole nativist undertone,
Yeah.
because the stepmom is Chinese, I think,
Japanese.
or
I think.
Japanese,
I
maybe.
think.
One of the
Okay.
two.
But like basically she's being discriminated against. Her restaurant was like burned. I mean, it was like there's like real nasty like nativist shit happening
Well,
while all the other stuff is happening as well.
Jay Baruchel had mentioned that it started in Japan or China or both.
Right, that there was some like anti-Asian sentiment about the situation that
which
they were
caused
like,
that racism she was going
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see. Okay, gotcha.
through, which is again very COVID parallel.
As we know from COVID, it doesn't like it doesn't take much to
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
behaviors. So sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of good little details like this in this that I think the world building around it is pretty cool. And this whole ecological disaster situation that the world is in, I really like the detail that was put into that, and it really fleshes this movie out. Even though it's all takes place, in one locked house,
Yeah.
it makes it feel fuller, which is cool.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this movie, Casey?
Yeah.
Matilda?
Yes.
Jonathan?
I'm going to say it's the best COVID parable we've seen thus far. So in that context, I'll say yes.
I'm gonna say yes. And is this a 2024 movie, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm gonna put it on my list.
Hey-o!
So
All right.
let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Nope.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
John, I have really important news for you that I just learned. Did you know that for $15 a month, you can get unlimited drinks at Panera Bread?
No, I didn't.
Unlimited drinks every 2 hours is the only limit. Like iced coffee, tea, coffee, fountain drinks.
So
That's a steal. Like if you
you
live
show
near
up
a
at like,
Panera
it's
Bread-
like 10 a.m. You show up, they fill up your coffee.
yeah.
And then it's like 11:59. You're looking at your watch. You're like
Yep.
staring the person down. And
That's the sip club.
No. If you're
that what
if
it's
you
called?
stay in the building, you get unlimited refills. If you leave the building, you can come back every 2 hours.
wait,
I don't know why.
if you stay in the building, you can come back every 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's
day.
not. This is not a new thing.
You could work there, or you could, like if you work from home, you could work there. Dude, I might do this. I literally never go to Panera Bread, but like, come on,
No,
you can't beat that deal, John.
Eric's
See?
100. So
Thank you, Matilda.
Delaney's a team leader at Panera.
Oh,
Everything Eric's saying is all true. People go there and work in the mornings. You can come and go and fill up your drinks as much as you want. I have the step above the sip club in that I'm Delaney's dad, but
Oh. I was like, there's another step.
no,
That's hilarious.
It's the big sipper.
yeah,
John, you can't beat this
Tall
deal.
drink, as they call him at the Panera Bread in Noblesville.
that's still. I mean, it's still worth the, especially if you work a remote worker and you're hanging out there and working. It's a great deal, but the price did just go up to that $15 recently.
That's
So
still though.
It's a
it
good
was
deal.
like $8 last year.
I don't know that there's a Panera. I mean, maybe there's a Panera Bread in New York
Yeah.
City, but
Oh, they're all over the place out here.
Yeah.
I might do it. I'll report back, John.
please do send pics.
I'm gonna throw this movie at number 7,
Okay.
which for those keeping track at home bumps Night Swim, John, to number 8.
No. Oh, it's afraid. I thought it was false at all.
It's hanging on.
I thought that was.
What, you thought it was off the list?
I did.
You got
I was
excited there
like,
for a
I was
second.
gonna do a whole thing. Oh,
Yeah,
shit. Okay.
amazing. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address.
Just better than nice. Ring endorsement.
Levi says, wait. I might have missed this, but does John actually have a nice microphone now?
Hell
Yeah,
yeah,
you didn't catch
Levi.
him complaining about trying to get it to work on the pre-show?
No,
He's having a real fit.
it's going great though.
A sip club, John. It's amazing.
Oh my god.
I remember I was reading about a thing. There was like a similar deal at Six Flag places, like any place Six Flag zones, for like real cheap. You can get a thing that like you can eat there, like unlimited every day.
Aren't that like what
And
else do they own?
The article was like this guy lived next door to a theme park, and he did it, and it was like my hack how I saved like $1,000 on meals or something. He ate there every meal for like the whole summer.
I don't know if I'd want to eat amusement park.
No,
every year.
just like funnel cake all the time.
But if I was
Yeah.
like 20,
There's
Yeah.
a lot
yeah,
of cabanas there. I mean, I haven't been to a Six Flag in a long time, but
Yeah, to
well,
be
and they
fair,
own
there
a
was
lot
a
of they own a lot of regional parks too that are like not. I wouldn't
Oh,
say
yeah.
like Six Flags
Okay.
standards, John. So you never know.
Oh.
You can go get some crappy pizza and
I was gonna say
Dippin'
there was a period in my life I'd go for a daily fried cheese meal, but not anymore.
Dude,
Not
when I was
above it.
20, I once lived on nothing but Hot Pockets and like hot
Yeah.
dogs for like a year. I was like, it's so funny because I'm so healthy now. But God, how old was I? I was probably 21, and I got so sick they had to put me on Cipro, which is what they use for people who have anthrax.
yeah, I was gonna say that's like antibiotic. Isn't it like a extreme
Yeah.
antibiotic situation?
Pretty hardcore. You take
You're-
one, and you literally can feel it like coursing through your veins. It's pretty wild.
It's like that girl that was in the dorms that was living on like beer and top ramen who got scurvy. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Or
I can't believe I
rickets.
didn't.
Like
honestly. Scurvy or rickets or something.
or rickets. Yeah.
Yeah. I was eating ice cream though, right? So there's vitamin D in milk, right?
You got calcium.
So yeah, I got some calcium. We were good. I was eating a lot of chunky monkey ice cream from
Or
Oh, okay. A little potassium.
Ben and Jerry's. There's banana in there, yeah.
Yeah.
there you go.
Or cherry Garcia,
Something
gotta
that
be good
once
stuff.
was banana many months
distilled
ago.
down. Yeah. Oh Lord. All right, Casey, what do we got on threads?
We got 2 threads out there. First one from the drummer from Foghat. I loved Emily Hampshire and Schitt's Creek. Any of you watched that? If not, I'm ashamed of you. I still love you, but ashamed. He's
Well,
right.
I
Schitt's
gave my
Creek is
answer
really good.
earlier.
Schitt's
I
Creek's
loved it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Schitt's Creek is
Yeah,
amazing.
we just
Yeah.
finished a
Beyond shit.
rewatch.
So, you know,
And Emily Hampshire as Stevie Budd is pretty great. So it was nice
Yes.
seeing her switch it up here too, because I'd only known her from Schitt's Creek. Loved her in Schitt's Creek, so it's cool to see her stretch her wings and do something else here. I enjoyed it.
Yes. I was just in a park today and someone stopped me to talk to me about my Jazza Gals shirt, which is the singing group from Schitt's Creek.
That's
I
awesome.
saw a great Instagram post recently from Webster's Dictionary where they took all the clips of Mora using like obscure words and then
Oh.
matched it up to the definitions. It was so good.
Water.
It was that was
she
pretty good,
apparently
Casey.
was
What the
in.
hell?
She was apparently in Cosmopolis, which was a Cronenberg senior film
Oh,
Oh,
with
cool.
Robert Pattinson. It's pretty good. You know, it's a
Nice.
little wacky.
all right. Just a few questions.
Wait, I got another one here for us,
sorry,
Eric.
sorry.
It's all right. Our good buddy Popcorn.Designs chimes in. What is your favorite natural disaster for a movie? Asteroid, volcano, flood? I myself love a good tornado movie with or without sharks. I'm one of dozens looking forward to the upcoming Twister sequel.
My 2 favorite disaster movies of all time are Twister. I'm not looking forward to that sequel because it has that saltine cracker of a dude in it that I just
Glenn
am not
Powell.
interested
You
in.
no, you take
Do
it
not
back.
like him.
I think it looks really good. I'm going on record right now.
No Bill
I'm in for
Paxton.
Twisters.
Is what's her face in it? Are they bringing Helen
Helen
Hunt
Hunt?
back at least? Is she going to be the crazy lady with all the wind chimes in her yard now? Right, like full circle.
Maybe I haven't seen that, but I've seen the
she's
trailer
gotta-
like
that's
18
got to be
times.
the deal with her, right? She's got to be some like old coot now.
Well, okay, what's your other one? Because I have a lot of
um,
disaster movie thoughts.
It's so cheesy. Shit, it's a Michael Bay movie, I think, with Ben Affleck. The one where they're the oil drilling team and they send them to the
Armageddon.
asteroid.
Armageddon, yeah.
So
Armageddon. I love Armageddon.
That movie is. I watched it like maybe in the last 5 years. It's terrible. It's so schmaltzy.
It is. I like
It's
the schmaltz.
ridiculous.
I get into schmaltz every once in a while, John.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss
So-
a thing.
No.
It's so hard because I love disaster movies, but I hate the part where they're like, where there's a human interest angle.
Yeah.
Just, like, give me the-
And that's what's funny about Armageddon is it's like all human interest.
Yeah.
I took a date to that movie in 11th grade, and I remember she started like bawling at the end when Bruce Willis like sacrifices himself, and I just remember being like, "Am I supposed to do something right now?"
Wait, so Matilda, give us your favorites then.
So I loved San Andreas, except for the part that's like the daughter and the dad getting back to each other. Okay, so San Andreas, in my defense, I live in California. I like an earthquake movie. It's the most realistic, and like they had the staging area as like the park up the hill from my house, so I could like I like to see my own city destroyed just to get extra upset. But I love them so much. Like I went and saw Geostorm in the theater. Terrible, but very
Really bad.
enjoyable. Yeah, very
I watched it
enjoyable
on a
though.
plane. Yeah.
But the part where the family's trying to get back to each other, I'm just like, move it along.
Have you
I don't
seen
care about this.
2012?
Yes.
2012 is like the most. It's like they truly were like, we're gonna fight. Like whatever the other disaster movies did, we're doing that times 1,000. It's so ridiculous. And I can't even remember. It's God, I'm gonna forget his name now, but I can picture the actor. It's like there's like the same father and daughter are trying to reconnect or whatever, but
Yeah.
2012 Dennis Quaid, or no, he was in the
no, that's Day After
Ice
Tomorrow.
Age movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I have to go two, I go Dante's Peak. So Dante's Peak and Volcano came out like the same year. Volcano's pretty terrible. That's like the LA one. Dante's Peak, great, Pierce Brosnan. And then Deep Impact, the other asteroid movie, I think so far superior to Armageddon. It's just incredible. And
never seen it.
Oh my god. We got guys, we'll just pause. Let's give Eric a couple hours. But
Well, after the first one, I couldn't talk my 11th grade girlfriend into going to see another one, John.
there's plenty of like human interest stuff, but it's happening at the level of like you don't like it's an ensemble piece, so like you don't really care about any one of the things, but there's probably like 11 different characters who each have their own small human interest thing happening, and it's like in the context of the Deep Impact. And spoiler alert, that fucking thing hits the earth. Like we're not blowing it up with a nuclear bomb on.
Isn't Bill
fucking-
Pullman the president in Armageddon?
Yeah. No.
Beat that, John.
Oh no, Deep Impact is Morgan Freeman, I think, is the president.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
Bill
funny, too.
Pullman's the president in Independence Day.
He might be in Armageddon.
Oh, maybe
too.
that's.
Who's the
I'm thinking of
president?
a Bill Pullman speech.
Yeah, that's
Maybe that is
Independence Day.
Yeah. Do alien invasions count as disaster movies?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why? What's
It's
your
interesting
alien
because there's
invasion?
parallels there. There's also parallels with like any kind of Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you could argue Godzilla's a little bit of like a natural disaster situation.
Yeah.
Wait, who plays the president in Armageddon now? I'm gonna like. I'm like kind of crazy trying to think of it. I forgot about Peter Stormare in that.
Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Steve Buscemi, Billy Bob Thornton, Owen
I
Wilson.
know. Well, I'm like scrolling down. It's like I can't remember which
Peter
one.
Stormare. That's right. Peter Stormare plays the crazy Russian dude on
Yeah.
the
Who's
space
like-
station.
Yeah, he's on the space station. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Is Day After Tomorrow the one with the ice?
Come on, dude. Look at this cast.
Yeah.
William Fichtner, Keith David.
Oh, it's a very, very, very good cast. Will Patton, that dude's great.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
see who plays the president though. Oh, isn't that the one where you don't really see his face?
It's here it is, Stanley Anderson. Yeah, maybe you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Stanley
you like
Anderson.
just see him. I think like cut off at the neck, and you hear his voice or something, or you just see
Yeah,
it. Like it's not
possible.
God, it's been so long since I've seen that one.
Telling you, it's real good.
Now, I liked for me my natural disaster movies. The more outlandish, the better. So like 2012 with the stupid tidal waves and stuff. I'm just laughing at the spectacle. That's what makes them fun for me. And the day after tomorrow, watching them running from ice, freezing ice that's chasing them is one of my favorite stupid moments in movie history.
Yeah, that movie's
was-
solid.
What was the nuclear like mini series when we were
Day after
In the-
tomorrow.
No, Threads.
what was
Wait,
it?
what?
No,
The
there
day
was
after or something.
The day after.
yeah.
Yeah, that actually terrified me.
I
as
was
a kid.
just watching a thing about that. What was I? Oh, John Oliver brought it up because or maybe I was watching an old whatever.
Oh, I do remember
Like
that.
that movie, Reagan watched that movie
Yeah.
at Camp David, and that's what convinced him to go into talks about disarming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrifying.
But Threads was a UK movie that was like a mini series about the nuclear aftermath too. That I think was a little bit right around that same time, maybe.
Yeah, I think my first one as a kid was Airplane. I guess that's not truly a disaster
my
movie,
God.
but
I mean,
but
that's
like
one of the-
growing
have
up
you-
on
So
that.
Matilda, have you and I ever talked about airplanes? So like
No.
I've told you, John laughs at me every time I tell the story. I was so young when I saw that, I didn't understand that it was a comedy, and it scared me to my core.
So good.
Like I have like when I think of that movie, I am frightened. Like I have scared feelings. Like, and it's specifically the scene where the blow up dolls are driving the plane. It's just like a cutaway or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I thought that was like the scariest fucking thing I ever seen in my life.
I mean,
I
that's not a
remember-
good situation.
No,
Even
it's not.
when she had to reinflate the one pilot.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like
my
I just think
grandfather-
scary when I think airplane.
My grandfather showed me that. So, have you ever seen the movie? There's like that's spoofing. There was a series of movies
Airport
called
77.
The funny
yeah.
thing is I
There
haven't
was
seen
like
it
4
as
or
an
5 of
adult.
them.
So the
Mhm.
only memories I have of it are just these like fever dream
I mean, look,
kid memories.
I mean, it's not PC in any
dance.
way at this point, but it's so fucking good. Like it's
Yeah.
really funny.
Now the airport movies, Karen Black was in those, right?
Mhm.
Because I
Yeah.
remember in like 2003, probably I met her at a convention after House of a Thousand Corpses had come out, and wanted to get her autograph on this poster I had. And I remember her going off about like, how do you even know who I am? And I wanted to be like, lady, you're in this movie. Like, she was like, do you know who I am? Because I was so young. I was like 20 or something. I was like, lady, you're in the movie. The
You're
poster.
like my new favorite
Look.
movie, House of a Thousand Corpses.
Why would I be paying
You're
you
in it.
$20 if I didn't know who you were?
Exactly.
No, the
But-
airplane moment that I still like. Literally, I was probably 8 when my grandfather showed it to me, and it's Leslie Nielsen, and he just like escalating drug use. Like I picked
Yeah.
a bed, we stopped smoking cigarettes, and it's like I picked a bed, we just stopped sniffing glue. And shit. Oh man, it's so good.
Oh yeah.
Telling you, scariest movie ever made.
No, it's not a natural disaster, but disaster movie. Poseidon Adventure always
Oh.
captivated me. I love that movie.
So good. I've never seen the remake. I've only ever seen the original one.
John, you're
I-
into those. You're John. You're into those fire movies, right? Remember we were talking about doing a show about them at one point.
Fireman.
Towering Inferno.
Oh well,
Yeah,
no.
that's a
I,
good one.
Oh yeah.
I went back and watched that. I went through like a whole.
Yeah.
I
Deep dive
keep
on some of these
remembering it
disasters.
because I have the DVDs because we bought them because we were gonna do a show on it. Do you remember that? You
I
wrote a
remember-
script at one
Oh
point.
yeah. No, that I remember. I thought you meant on Bloody Good Heart. I was like, I don't think so.
No. So I just see.
I
run
remember
into
him
those
getting them
DVDs.
elsewhere.
I run into those DVDs when I clean up every once in a while, and I'm like, yep.
That and
Got these.
Earthquake I watched
That
back
was
to
the other one.
back,
Yeah.
and it's they're interesting. So
Love it. Is that it, Casey?
That's it.
now we just sit quietly.
I was letting my dog cough it out.
Oh.
All right. Only a few tonight from Plug It Up Pod. So glad Caitlin Cronenberg spells her name correctly. With a C. Levi, what's a moment in your life when you felt the most human? I don't exactly know what that means.
Damn, Levi.
I mean, you go to the obvious ones, right? Birth, death,
Yeah.
injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you
I'm
do
going to
drugs.
injury.
Yeah, when you feel your mortality.
Yeah.
When you can like when I can see, I had one injury on my knee where I could like see inside my body. Like one of those injuries where you're
What
like,
happened?
oh. I tripped and I hit the side of the corner of a brick in my driveway and kind of like hamburgered it a little bit.
Ouch.
Jesus.
So
It's not good.
evocative.
I know. Even through jeans, it was really intense.
Did you tear
my Lord.
anything internally, or was it just the skin was gone?
It was this, no, I had to go get stitches, like internal and external, but I was like, that's the inside of my body, you know, like, which I think is an appropriate reation to be like, the inside of my body should not be exposed to the air.
How is your knee now?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. I sprained my ankle once so bad. I was like at the slipped on hardwood and just went to catch myself. My ankle just went like old soccer ankle, just like totally rolled. Made the loudest crack. I fell on the ground screaming. I was home alone. Dog jumps on my chest, licking my face. And,
Starts hacking
I was
along.
like, this is not helping. Like, no, my other dog. The one that's not around. But I thought for sure that I had compound fractured it, and so I didn't want to look at it. And so I had to wait until like the screaming subsided, and then I like did one of these like slowly like look, just creaked my eyes open barely because I was so afraid to look. And could not believe when there was not just like a bone sticking out because of how it felt. It was horrendous.
Yeah. When you hear it, it's never
And
good.
so I was getting ready to take a shower. I had just put my phone in the bathroom, which was upstairs. And so I had to misery style crawl up the stairs to get to the phone to call my dad to come
Oh,
over.
look.
So yeah, maybe that's my answer.
I'll throw out there not to be scary or worry anybody because I'm fine. But turning 50 really put some thoughts in my head that made me feel human.
Yeah.
There's about a month and a half existential period. I wouldn't call it a crisis, but it was
That's
an
how-
existential period.
I start every day like that, Casey.
Yeah. I also turned 50 recently, Casey, but I was just like immediately on the senior center website because I qualify. I'm like, yes, I can like go to weaving class.
That tracks though, Matilda.
Oh,
That makes
Matilda.
I had
sense.
a-
That makes sense with the Matilda character.
I was doing a lot of math in my head there for about a month and a half, unfortunately, but I'm good now.
Okay.
What's the? Oh, now I want to get into this deeper. Like, how many summers you got left?
Yes.
gotcha.
It's like,
I
oh,
think
wow, I'm going to be retiring in 15 years, and oh, wow.
Oh, I don't
Hope
think I'll
I'm
ever
retiring.
retire,
Hope
so
I'm retiring sooner than that. Let's go.
I
15
expect to work
years.
till I die.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be retiring in 15 years.
Oh, I am just wielding my AARP card like a fucking weapon all over the travel industry. I'm sorry to say.
Get some early bird specials.
Hell
Hey.
yeah.
Maybe you get a deal on the sip club with the.
Hey, a good deal is a good deal.
You're sipping right now. I'm just saying.
Listen, yeah.
Find that Panera.
I'm going to.
Not an advertiser.
I'm taking the day off.
But you know what? Turning 50 is also on the other side has done wonders for my I don't give a shit attitude too. I'm just like,
Yeah.
my neighbor said something to me, but I ran into her outside the day of my birthday, and she's like, "Yeah, now you no longer have to give a fuck." And I was thinking about it, I'm like, she is right.
I've definitely like between 30 and 40, just lost all fucks for sure. Which is
Yeah.
it's very freeing.
It is.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to do that anymore. All of a
Exactly.
sudden, no, I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. Is it time to finally admit David's offspring are lesser variants than he is?
I
don't
mean,
know.
I reject
now,
that premise.
I would say like Brandon is starting to surpass not necessarily David at his peak, but like I think Brandon right now is like the one who's like he did Possessor, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
movie's amazing. That
And
movie's
antiviral, just great.
I don't know. They're artists. Like it's like I hope they get to find their own thing, to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
And he's old now, so
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
yeah,
problem. I talked about coming into this movie thinking it was going to be bleak. That's because I made the assumption after I read the plot, just like, oh, it's going to be like her dad and her brother's movies. This is going to be dark as shit.
Oh, this is a good one. How inhumane do you think you could be?
Yeah.
I think I could get there if I had to. I have some dreams sometimes, John, where I just go like ham on people.
Yikes.
Yeah, Matilda can analyze that for me.
Y'all
fair-
get that offline.
To be fair, it's usually in defense, self-defense.
Yeah.
I would say I could think of family members that might make me consider.
Right. John's not answering it.
No, I mean, I would say not that inhumane. I would very much have a hard time, but to your point,
Yeah.
maybe I can get there.
I could for a moment, and then I'd have such an overdeveloped sense of guilt. I would question myself about it, like on the other side, in a way that would not be fun for me.
John, I bet
Yeah.
you just got to get in touch with those German roots of yours, John.
Yeah.
There's a loyalty there, in the community.
I'd get lost in my head, like, well, on one hand, I can see this, but on the other hand, I'd feel bad. And then the time would run out and we'd all be screwed.
That's it. Next week, Ghostbusters.
Who are you going to call?
What's the title?
Frozen
Frozen
Empire.
Frozen Empire. Speaking of disaster movies,
Well,
City Gets Frozen. I think that counts.
Sure.
I'll count
If
it.
they bring back CGI Egon, definitely will qualify as a disaster.
It's a disaster, yeah.
It's more of a paranatural disaster than a natural disaster, though.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Matilda, where can people find you when you're not here?
People can find me
Besides
over
knitting.
besides knitting, people can find me over at Zombie Girls.
Wait, what did you say
That's
before? Weaving class?
Yeah. So here's the bad thing about the senior center is everything is at like 10:15 on a Tuesday. Like it's really for retired.
For people who aren't working.
People don't
yeah.
have jobs. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they got it, but like really affordable stained glass classes, I gotta say.
Well,
People can find me over at the Zombie Girls, over with Rachel and Ariel, also frequent guests of the show. And that is GRRLZ and Zombie Girls Podcasts, plural, on all the socials.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it. We'll be back next week with a little Ghostbusters, and we'll talk to you then.
See yous.
Bye.
bye-bye.